you're in for a real treat. So I want to just give you a little bit of a bio here. He's a speaker, he's a musician, and he has the initials NCW by his name. NCW, no credentials whatsoever. Gregh combines a lifetime of interest in consciousness and wellness with an irreverent sense of humor. His songs and stories range from deeply spiritual to irreverently funny, including the shootout at the I'm okay, you're okay corral, and Jesus was a bachelor. Many of Gregg's songs have won awards, including a recent Lifetime Achievement Award at the Posse Music Awards. The Grammys of Positive Music is what that is. That's big. Yes. We'll get to hear some of these award-winning songs in his talk and also later in his comedy concert if you have not seen what's coming after service today. Gregh performs internationally for a wide variety of groups interested in wellness, and once a year he leads small tours of positive spiritual people to fun and exotic destinations. He has written and recorded 7 CDs, plus a book of true stories that open the heart and tickle the funny bone. They are all available here today outside in the lobby, and he'll be manning that table afterwards to be able to talk with all of you. His ongoing mission in life is saving the world from whiny victim love songs. Welcome, Gregh Tamblyn.
Thanks, everybody. Really, really good to be back. I was actually here about 20 years ago, so it's been a long time. And I really, really do want to thank everybody for making me feel welcome this morning, because you all have. I want to thank Joe for getting me all wired up here. Thank you, Joe. And Pat for playing that amazing version of Here, There, and Everywhere, which was so beautiful. I just heard Paul McCartney say he thinks that's his favorite song that he's written. So it was lovely to hear it. So I'm really, really happy to be here. I want to thank Kathy and Michael for hosting me and their pups. They're beautiful pups. So much fun. And I want to speak this morning, share some thoughts about big mysteries, cosmic questions, and what I feel is the most helpful attitude to have about these big questions when we encounter them. So how best to approach them. Now, I like to joke about this NCW degree. Anybody else have that one? So I know it's a growing club. But the reality is I did escape from college with a real degree, a BS. A BS in geology. Yeah, it's true. Wanted to be a rock star. No, I was fascinated by all the big questions that geology looks at, the big mysteries. You know, how our planet and all the other planets and moons in our solar system and our sun, how they came together and formed out of that big cloud of gas and dust. You know, that's still not really clear how that happens, but we have all these planets and moons in our solar system, and they're all so different. It's fascinating how different they are from each other. So we're finding out all kinds of things about that. Somehow, on this planet, about 3.7 billion years ago, we got organic matter out of inorganic matter. We don't know how that happened, but life began. We think it might have even come from an asteroid or a comet. We're not sure yet. But then, over the last 3.5 billion years, out of all the trillion, quadrillion, million possibilities, evolutionary possibilities, somehow we get to be the dominant species at this little tiny micro moment in geologic time. And then all of these geologic processes that go on under our feet every day, all day long, all over the world, how they affect our experience of existence. So all of this is fascinating to me. I still study it, read about it all the time. But it wasn't long after college that I realized I was even more interested in what I think of as bigger mysteries. Like, what is God? If God exists, then what is God like? What is consciousness? This amazing ability we have to self-reflect and plan, imagine, and it's a huge mystery, consciousness. We don't know how that happens. What is death? What happens to consciousness after death? What is free will? Is that a real thing? Is it true that on some level everything is really connected? What is love? What are women really thinking? Big mysteries. So I thought we could have some fun with a couple of those this morning and see where it takes us. So if we're going to start, really the logical place to start is God. God's kind of the big mystery. If we get to the point where we accept there is God, God of your imagination, God of your belief, God of your consciousness, well, what is God like? Well, you've noticed that down through the centuries, a lot of people have tried to tell us what God is like. Whether they knew or not, they thought they knew, and they told us what God is like. But we have a lot of different versions of that. I'm interested in the fact that what God is like for me is a lot different than it was 40 years ago. What I think of as God is way different than, anybody relate to that? How you feel about God now is different, right? Which I thought was kind of funny, because I don't think God's changed much in 40 years. So that felt like a song idea. So my friend Richard and I came up with a song called A Brief History of God. Now, you know I'm a science guy, so I try to slip some science into these songs when I can. So in the last verse of this song, we added some physics. I had trouble with physics. I don't mind admitting I had trouble. I thought it said psychics when I signed up, but it wasn't what I expected. But seriously, there's a new theory, a new idea in physics called string theory. You probably heard that term, string theory. So when we get to the part of the song about strings, you'll know that it's physics. So this is called A Brief History of God, or G-string theory. In the beginning there was lots of competition, goddesses and gods of every disposition, from merciful to mean, from laid back to hyper, and little baby gods that flew around in diapers. Animals, pranksters, destroyers, creators, flute players, lute players, nymphs and satyrs. So many gods it was hard to keep them sorted. God had multiple personality disorder. Well, keeping track of all these gods was no fun. So finally some people said, let's cut it down to one. But the one God was angry, always finding fault. There was banishment and floods and pillars of salt. Well, why? Was God traumatized at an early age by standing too close to the Big Bang? Was it nature or nurture or Satan's little goblins? God had anger, management problems. God had other issues that mess with serenity, like this long-term question of sexual identity. The feminine divine with a male autonomous. God was so confused. Am I androgynous? And then on top of that, what was challenging the most was trying to figure out what the heck's the Holy Ghost. God needed time off and checked into a clinic. And poor old God was becoming schizophrenic. While in for treatment, God sent some folks to teach us, like Krishna, Buddha, Muhammad, Jesus. On some things they agree, on many things they don't. And if you choose the wrong one, some say your soul is toast. Now how everybody's praying by all these different rules. Muslims 5 times a day, Buddhists quite a few, Hindus, Jews, and Christians whenever there's a need, and Unitarians would rather plant a tree. Well, God's come a long way from that early dysfunction, and now science has brought us to this beautiful junction. The key to the theory is that every single thing is made up entirely of vibrating strings. Well, this is what musicians have known all along. The universe is really one big song. And there you have it, friends. That's the story so far. We're all just musical strings in God's big guitar. Thank you. It's a happy thought, isn't it? We're always vibrating. We never stop. The trick is to stay in tune. Stay in tune. Relationships are a lot about staying in tune with each other. We'll come back to that in a minute. So a lot of people down through the ages have told us that God is love. We like that answer. We love that answer, because what feels better than love? Really nothing. As an observer, once again, I'm kind of fascinated by this word love, because I think it was Margaret Atwood that said, the Eskimos have 50 different words for snow, different kinds of snow. We only have this one word for love. For all this huge range of emotional experiences, we just have one word, love. There's just a divine love, earthly love, brotherly love, motherly love, fated love, jaded love, mystical love, physical love, unrequited love, unconditional love, puppy love, love of chocolate chip cookies. And the big one for me, romantic love, which is still a huge mystery, I think. I'm fascinated by the fact that we can be standing in front of 2 identical twins and have this amazing connection and rapport and attraction and magnetism with one of them and nothing with the other one. How does that happen? How is it that love can be so strong for a while, maybe even decades, but then change over time or even fade away? It's really an interesting situation. Now, what about this? How many of us either believe in or have experienced love at first sight? Don't be shy. Go ahead. Okay, so it's about half of us, which is about normal. So it's happened to me a lot. Usually goes something like this. A man is riding on a train. He's heading south, it starts to rain. He sings a soft and sad refrain. He thinks he'll never love again. On the other track, a train is heading north through the rain. A woman looks out her window pane. Her life has been a lonely game. The 2 trains pass, they're moving fast. Faces flicker past. For half a beat, their 2 eyes meet. And instantly they both can see that they were meant to be. Yes, it happened just like that. It hit them like a thunderclap. Somehow they had seen the answer to their dreams passing on the other track. So at the next stop he gets off. A love like that must not be lost. He takes the next train heading north. He does not know she's done the same. So they pass again. For half a beat, their 2 eyes meet. But something's changed, it's not the same. Now they can see they were not meant to be. Well, she knew someday it would have to end. She wonders if they'll still be friends. All the plans he made all begin to fade as she disappears around the bend. He will never be the same. Deep in his heart she will remain. He looks out through the falling rain. He thinks he'll never love again. I think he's gonna love again. And again and again and again and again. Thank you. Maybe you've had a relationship like that. Brief. Linda Berry, cartoonist Linda Berry, said, "Love is an exploding cigar we willingly smoke." John Bradshaw, remember John Bradshaw? He said, "Falling in love, in reality, is actually a high-octane endocrine hormone cocktail." And it is. Science has measured this now, and we know that when we fall in love, the hormonal changes that happen are big and measurable, and they last typically from 6 to 18 months. Then they revert to wherever they were before. So for a relationship to last beyond that hormone cocktail, to me it makes sense that it has to be based on something other than the hormone cocktail. Something deeper, something more profound, maybe something even sacred. Well, love, I feel like because of that, love is a word, we should at least have two words, like the Greeks, eros for romantic love, and agape for the sort of brotherly, divine type of love. And that way, if we wanted to tell somebody we love them, but we don't want there to be any confusion about what's going to happen, we could say, "I agape you." Then it's just clear. Love is a word I use with music. I love music. I can't imagine my life without music. I love this guitar. I'm crazy about this guitar. Before I loved this guitar, I loved a different guitar. I did. I had this Takamine, that's a brand of guitar, and it's a much bigger guitar. It was what they call a dreadnought size, and it was made out of maple. You don't see that very often, so it had this really beautiful, very striking kind of blonde finish. And so it was a very pretty guitar, but it also was a good guitar that dependable, and I'd been all over the planet with it and for a long time, and I really loved that guitar. And at the same time, as much as I loved that guitar, I started having this idea that I wanted a different guitar to travel with. And I wanted something that fingerpicked more easily, a little smaller, better electronics, a couple other things. So I was really thinking about this a lot, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought I really want a new guitar. But I wasn't doing anything about it, because I don't like shopping for guitars. I'm picky. It's hard for me to find one I like. I have smaller hands, it has to fit my hand. And also because most guitar stores are staffed by what we could call young rock musicians. Now this is not a knock on young rock musicians, because I used to be one, but just tell me if in your mind these two things go together. Young rock musicians, great customer service. Not always. So anyway, I'm putting it off for months until fate intervenes, of all places, in the Honolulu airport, in the form of a woman I will affectionately call Attila the gate agent. I'm walking up to the gate counter with my guitar in my soft case on my shoulder, fits overhead in the plane or in the closet. This is how we travel with our guitars mostly. Anyway, I'm walking up to the gate counter, and I get about 15 feet away, and she sees me coming, and she just, in a really loud voice, she says, looks at me and points at me, and she says, "That is not going on the plane with you." I thought, what is that about? Where's that coming from? I just kind of did a right turn. I thought, well, I don't know what's going on here, but I know that she doesn't understand that I'm a professional musician, and she just needs to know that, So I go up, I give her a big smile. I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm a professional musician. I fly your airline all the time. I got a concert in San Francisco, and I'm going on and on." She interrupts me. She says, no, I don't think you heard me. That is not going on the plane with you. And walks off. So I thought, well, okay, this is going to be harder than I thought. So I give it some more thought, and I go back up, give her a big smile. I said, "Hey, you know what? You're probably worried about the load, huh? Maybe you're worried about how about we let everybody board the plane? I'll get on last, and we'll see if there's room." And I knew there'd be room because it was one of those giant planes. And she says, "I've already told you twice. It's not going on the plane with you. Now stop bothering me and decide what you're going to do." And walks off. Well, now everybody's starting to board this plane, and I'm getting scared, a little worried, I should say, nervous. And finally, I just resort to begging. I just go up to her and I start pleading, could we just try? Could we just give it a shot? Could we just talk to a flight attendant? Could we just maybe see if there's room before you say no? And she's just stone cold, and she says, "No. You have two choices. You can leave it here, you can check it, it's not going with you." I said, okay. So I gave her the guitar, and off she went. And I get on board. It turns out I'm in the front row of coach. They call this the bulkhead. And across from me is the little jump seat, well, one of them. And there's a flight attendant sitting there, and the plane's taking a long time to taxi. So we start talking. I tell her the whole story about Attila. And to her credit, she listens to the whole thing, and when I'm finished, she's just appalled. And she says, I just can't believe this. I just have to apologize for our airline. We are not like this. We know these instruments are important. We try to accommodate you guys, and you really need to know this is not what normally happens. Please accept my apology for our airline. And she got up to go to work, and I felt better, and I thought that was the end of it. But when we got to San Francisco, it was my turn to get off the plane. All the flight attendants are lined up there by the door, and I'm walking by, and they said, hey, wait, you're the guy with the guitar. Here, they brought it up. Let's give it to you. And I said, oh, that's nice. And then I thought, well, let's look at it. And I opened my soft case, and it's splinters. It's shattered. It's like the baggage guys thought they were Pete Townsend at a Who concert, So it wasn't going to be played anymore. That was clear. And I felt bad. They felt bad. 3 of them walked me down to baggage service, and they said, now look, here's our names and employee numbers and phone numbers, and this guy got a bad deal, and we think you need to make it right because this should not have happened. And then they left because it was midnight and they had to go to work the next day. So here I am. It's midnight. I'm in the bowels of the San Francisco airport. There's nobody around anywhere except this girl across the counter who looks about 12. And she looks up at me with this really sweet face, and she says, "I can't help you. I just work here. I don't have any authority to do anything. Now, if you want to come back tomorrow morning and talk to the manager, you can talk to the manager, and maybe she can help you. But you need to understand that we have a very firm policy. We never compensate for musical instruments, ever. It's just something we don't do. But if you want to come back in the morning, you can come back." So I go to where I'm spending the night. And you know how sometimes it's really hard to go to sleep when you're upset? And my feelings for Attila were not something I could share with you outside of group therapy. And I couldn't sleep. I was so angry and frustrated, and I get up in the morning just exhausted from all of that. And I'm driving out to the airport. I felt so bad, I just started praying. I just said, God, you know what? Please help me be calm. That's all I want. I just want to be calm. I don't care what happens. I will let go of this whole thing. Please just help me feel some peace. And it worked. By the time I got there, I felt okay. And I went in, the manager was there, we sat down, I told her the whole story, I had the names and numbers, and she listened, didn't say anything until I was finished, and then she just kind of shook her head and said, wait a minute, and she disappeared for a while, and eventually came back with this other woman, an even higher manager, and they sat down and they said, look, we have this company policy, we don't compensate for musical instruments. I said, yeah, I know, I've heard that. They said, well, we've talked it over, and we think we need to buy you a new guitar. I said, really? And they said, yeah, just find one you like, and we'll pay for it. So I got out of there before they could say anything else, and I asked my musician friends in San Francisco, where do I go? I got to get a guitar now. Where do I go? And they said, really, there's only one place. The best place is the Haight-Ashbury Music Center. Okay, so off I go to Haight-Ashbury. Now, I don't know if any of you have been there lately, but I'm from Kansas. And Haight-Ashbury is like this little corner of the Twilight Zone. It's like, you see the past, the present, the future. It's all there. It's on the sidewalk. You walk around, you see it, you smell it. It's like a smorgasbord for the senses. I'm cruising around Haight-Ashbury looking for this store, getting a little high in the process. And finally, I find it. It turns out to be a great store. They have great guitars, wonderful salespeople, and for 2 days they bring me guitars and let me play them. They don't bug me, they don't pressure me, they just bring me guitars, answer my questions. And after a couple of days, they brought me this. And as soon as I picked it up, I knew this was it. I mean, it just felt so good. And then they let me take it out of the store and do a concert that night. So that's when I knew this was my new guitar. All right, well, this guitar is way better than my old guitar. It's way more fun to play. It's easier to play, it sounds better, it's got better electronics, it's a better size. Everything about it is better. And it was $600 more than my old guitar, totally paid for by the airline. And the thing is, I owe it all to Attila, the gate agent. You never know who's going to turn out to be an angel in your life. They might not look like it at first. You might not find out until a lot later that they were an angel in your life. But, when this happens, and I know it's happened to all of us, it really fills me with a sense of wonder because I feel like maybe everything is connected in a way I can't possibly understand. A lot of physicists are saying that now, in the quantum level, everything is really interconnected. It's true that all of us have atoms, that we've breathed in from Jesus and Buddha and a lot of, almost everybody in the last few thousand years. So, as I said, that idea fills me with a sense of wonder, and I feel like wonder is kind of the key word here. Because what the best scientists and the best mystics have in common is a sense of wonder at the working of the universe. Einstein, Carl Sagan, Yogananda, Meister Eckhart, mystics, all of them communicate this sense of wonder and awe at the workings of the universe and how scientists now, doctors are telling us this is really important to feel this every day. In fact, Einstein said that 100 years ago. So a sense of wonder is really important. The other thing is the best of those, the ones, the mystics and the scientists that we remember as our teachers are ones that also can bring a sense of humor to it. Take it lightly, not take life too seriously. Remembering to have some humor about it. So humor and wonder are the two ways that I get through the day. I have to go there every day. I have to have some wonder, I have to have some humor, and they pretty much keep me relatively sane. So that's my lesson for today. Now, obviously, there's a lot more mysteries that we can get to later in the day. I have some songs about some of these other things we mentioned earlier. But I want to finish with a Karl Rahner quote. He's a German theologian who said there are two kinds of people in the world. People who need certainty in people who seek understanding. I would just suggest to you that it's better to be a seeker of understanding for this reason. When you're sure you're right, you're stuck with what you already know. Does that make sense? When you're sure you're right, the learning stops. So better to be a seeker. All right, well, let's take these thoughts into meditation. And what I'm going to do is just a little bit of noodling here. And I'm thinking, of what I'm going to give you. A couple of prayerful thoughts, I think, is what we'll do. Now, I know we have a lot of good singers in this group, so I'm going to ask you to hum this little tune with me. It's the lower part of the Heart of the Mother chant, which you might have heard. It goes like this. Let's try that. One more. Just silently. Let's all take a nice big slow breath and feel our pew supporting our weight, and just let our body relax into our seat. Let's take a nice big breath and breathe in the peace of God and feel that fill our whole body and our whole being. And I'll offer you this prayer by an 18th century theologian named Phillips Brooks. Do not pray for easy lives. Pray to be stronger men and women. Do not pray for tasks equal to your powers. Pray for powers equal to your tasks. Then the doing of your work shall be no miracle, but you shall be a miracle. And every day you shall wonder at the richness of life which has come to you by the grace of God. Let all things be healthy. Let all things be peaceful. Be sure to count your blessings at least once a day. Have self-control, self-knowledge, self-respect, and the courage to dare. Be tranquil. the light of intelligence will survive. And strive to make a spot where you stand beautiful. Then the beauty and harmony will follow you in all your ways and in all your days on this journey we call life. Let's do that together. All right, let's take a nice big breath, come back to the room, and thank you so much for the gift of your attention. I actually have one more song I'm going to play in a minute or two, but I think there's a couple of things we do before that, or is that not right?
Yes, would you have some announcements? I'm new at this. Let's see, Greg, what are we doing here? Yes, we are. We're going to bless the love offerings here in a minute, and then we'll have another song from you.
Okay.
Are you good? Go ahead. All right.